But if we aren't motivated to actually turn those plans into actions, then what is the point of planning in the first place? But when it comes to actually finding the motivation, do you feel like you're trying to pull yourself up from your bootstraps? Life can be so overwhelming, and I can definitely relate to having a lack of motivation myself. So I wanted to share with you the steps that I'm currently taking in my journey, and maybe you can use some of these ideas for helping you out in your journey as well. One really common self-imposed stumbling block is not actually believing you can do it. Imagine your ideal self in 5 years from now. What do you look like? Are you smiling? Are you laughing with friends? How do you feel? Energized? Are you strong? What are you doing? Are you successful? Are you organized? What are your proudest accomplishments? Have you finished writing a book? Have you started a blog? Are you training for a marathon? Are you the owner of a small business? Now choose one thing about your future best self that you want to work on making into reality now. Right now, get out a piece of paper and write down what you want to be motivated to do. Step 2 is to clearly define your goal. If it's vague, then you'll need to clarify it. SMART goals are specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. Also, make sure to write it in the present tense as if you've already achieved that goal. When you act like it's already true and you tell it to yourself over and over, you will eventually believe it. And when you believe something, your actions will begin to fall in line with those beliefs until they become reality, even if you don't realize that this is what is happening. It's a phenomenon coined by psychologists as the self-fulfilling prophecy. A great example of this is the placebo effect, which we often see in research studies and clinical trials. For example, if the participant is given a sugar pill but told that they are receiving medication, their relief is being caused by their internal beliefs and not any sort of external causes. Another example is if two people go to a job interview and they have the exact same qualifications, they are the same in every possible way. The only difference is that one person is confident and she believes that she is qualified and she believes in her abilities, but the other does not believe in her interview skills. Who do you think is going to get offered that job? So instead of saying, I want to do better financially, say, I am saving $5,000 this year by bringing lunch from home, by making coffee at home and bringing it to work, and by only going out to eat once a month. It needs to be very specific with a timeline and also in the present tense. And if you want to go above and beyond, you could also create a quick vision board in your planner. For my example, I'm using cleaning the house as what I will be motivated to do. So I'm going to take photos of each of the rooms in my house, what they look like when they are completely clean and the way that I want them to be. And then during those moments when I'm not feeling motivated to clean, I can reference those photos and it will motivate me to make those rooms look the way that they do in the photos. Step 3 is to know your why. What is your why? Why does your goal matter to you? Why is it meaningful? Why do you want to start reading more or start a small business or lose weight? Why do you want to go back to school? In order to answer this, it can be helpful to think about what our core values are. Maybe your core values are family or friendships, well-being, wisdom or spirituality, health or wealth, respect or advocacy. Maybe you value individuality or community, adventure or security. Maybe it's the fulfillment that you'll get for finally pursuing your childhood dream, or providing your children with a hardworking, positive role model in order to provide them with a foundation for success. Maybe it's so that you can be there for your spouse. Maybe it's making a difference in the world. Because when your why is aligned with your core values, it's not just a goal anymore. It becomes a mission. Step 4 is to identify those excuses, limiting beliefs, and assumptions that have prevented you from achieving your goal. So I want you to draw 2 columns on your piece of paper and label the left column excuses. Think about every excuse that you have used for why you haven't achieved this goal yet. For example, I know that I often use the excuse of I don't have time, or I don't have the energy. But maybe your excuse is I'm not talented enough, or I don't have the resources, I'm afraid I will fail, or even if it's not perfect, then it's not worth it. Now, step 5 is to reframe your excuses. So in the right column, write reframing. Your behavior and actions are controlled by your thoughts and your perception of what you think is happening to you. The more negative thoughts you think, the more they become reinforced, and it is reflected in what we do, or in the situation of a lack of motivation and what we don't do. If you are feeding yourself negative thoughts, it's almost like giving a plant poison instead of water. How can you expect there to be a positive outcome and growth in that situation? Cognitive reframing, also known as cognitive restructuring, is a cognitive behavioral therapy technique for disrupting irrational thoughts. So I want you to look at those excuses that you've written down in the left column and challenge each of them with rational thoughts. So for example, I don't have time can be reframed into I am in control of my schedule. If I reduce the amount of time that I'm watching television per week, then I can dedicate 20 more minutes per day towards achieving my goal. For I don't have the energy, this can be reframed into I can go to bed 30 minutes earlier each night so that I can wake up the following morning refreshed and energized. The next example is I'm not smart or talented enough. In the book Grit, Dr. Angela Lee Duckworth explains from her study's findings that the greatest predictor of success is not actually your IQ or your talent or how you look. It's actually your ability to persevere and to have passion for a goal over a long period of time. This is known as grit. Another excuse is I'm afraid I will fail. Dr. Angela Lee Duckworth goes on to explain in her book that people with grit realize that mistakes and setbacks are a necessary and normal part of the process of improving yourself. When they reach an obstacle, they don't use it as an excuse to give up. Think about when you were a child and you were just learning to walk. When you took those first few steps, you probably stumbled. Now imagine what would have happened if you had used that at that time point as an excuse for never trying to walk again. You would still be crawling today, but you didn't give up and you kept practicing over and over again until you mastered that skill. So why would we want to limit ourselves from achieving our dreams? Why would we want to waste this one precious life that we're given? Another excuse is if it's not perfect, then it's not worth it. And perfectionism is something that I definitely struggled with, especially in middle school. But today I've realized that done is so much better than an incomplete attempt at perfection. Step 6 is to plan it out. This means writing out those small, achievable actions that you can take to make your goal into reality. And once you complete these actions, you can check them off in your planner. And each time that you check off an item from a to-do list, you get a release of dopamine, which actually helps to further promote drive and motivation. Marian, Wright, Edelman once said, "We must not, in trying to think about how we can make a big difference, ignore the small daily differences we can make, which over time add up to big differences that we cannot foresee." So it's about starting with small baby steps, not overwhelming yourself. Really break it down and take it one step at a time so that you can build up momentum as you see yourself achieve goal after goal. I also like to plan out what I'm going to do if something goes wrong. I can usually foresee what that's going to be. So for example, if I run out of time to clean because I get home late from work, I will try again the next day and not use it as a reason to give up. So it's important to have a plan for what you're going to do when things go wrong, because things are always going to go wrong in life. It's just reality. Step 7 is to create accountability. Maybe you want to tell a friend about your goal and then give them a kind of progress report over time about how well you're doing. What really motivates my husband and I to clean is to host a party or to just invite some friends over, because knowing that people are coming over to your house can really motivate you to get the house cleaned. Or you could schedule a pickup day with a donation place so that you have a set deadline. You know that they're going to arrive and they need some items, so you can use that to motivate yourself to declutter your house. And the next step is to get started. So there are some ways to kind of make this process easier. For example, you could set a timer for 15 minutes or 20 minutes and tell yourself that once that timer goes off, you have the right to take a break. But if you find that after 15 or 20 minutes of doing that task that you want to keep continuing on that task, that's okay too. I do this when I'm putting together presentations for work. I find that it can be difficult to get going, but then once I'm in that mindset and it's been like 15 or 20 minutes, I'm okay with continuing to work on that presentation. It can also be a lot more enjoyable if you associate that task with something that you find fun. So for example, if you need to wash the dishes, you can watch YouTube videos at the same time. Or if you need to tidy the house, you can play some of your favorite music and maybe even dance along to it if that's something you like to do. You can watch TV while you are exercising. The idea is that you are helping your brain to begin to associate that task with something that you actually enjoy doing. And this is something that I have been doing, and I really have found that it works for me to motivate myself to get started on something that I really don't want to do. It's also helpful to focus on tasks that will give you the greatest impact? In the book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell explains how certain habits can have greater impacts on our lives than others. These are known as Keystone habits, and they can have positive ripple effects into the other areas of your life. A common Keystone habit is exercise. They found that it leads to healthier eating habits, using credit cards less, and having less of a tendency to procrastinate, among some other great positive habits. Starting with small wins can really help to build momentum. So for example, if you start with 1 load of laundry, working on that each day, maybe you can build yourself up to 2 loads of laundry and then 3 loads of laundry. Focus on something that you know that you are capable of doing and then work your way up from there. I wanted to share the story of Marla because I feel like it's a story that can really resonate with a lot of us. It was the 90s and Marla was overwhelmed with a recent change in her job, a death in the family, and a marriage that was falling apart. She went to a treatment facility for depression, and when she arrived, she remembers feeling awful. She was wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and it had been way too long since the last time she had taken a shower. The women that she roomed with decided they were going to give her a makeover. They made her take a shower and put on nicer clothing and fix her hair. And just with this simple change, her posture improved and she felt more confident. So she decided that she would get dressed each day because she found that it was really important to her. And she started making other small changes in her life and began taking care of herself a little bit more and a little bit more. And with each of these small changes, she began to transform. In January 1999, she decided to focus on a small habit for finally getting her home clean. And that habit that she focused on was a commitment to shine her sink every day. That single habit began taking on momentum as she began adding another habit and another habit, day after day. Today, she is happily married and has motivated hundreds of thousands of people to get their households and their lives together using the Fly Lady system. But none of that would have been possible if she hadn't taken that first small, achievable step. And finally, I want to remind you to not give up, even if you make a mistake. Mistakes are going to happen, they're a part of life. The important part is that you keep going. Remember that if you want something that you have never had, you must be willing to do something that you've never done. I am motivated to create content for this channel because I want to see this supportive community grow and for lives to be changed for the better. I love to see you build each other up by sharing ideas and encouraging words in the comments. I love that we are each passionate about planning. And I love that we are each driven to be the best versions of ourselves. So tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? See you next Saturday.
Never thought of me.